And thank you for joining us here on PM Express. I want to take a break from all the terrible things happening in the economy, as we discussed yesterday, and focus on football, something that unites us. But of course, in the last few days, left a few of us with heartaches and pain. But it is a symptom of a bigger issue, right? And we want to look at that because there is something of an African curse each time we go to the World Cup. We now have only one African team left standing in this particular World Cup, gone to the quarterfinals. I'm talking about Morocco, and we need to applaud them for doing it. But it is just another example of what could have been. African teams consistently underperform at the World Cup. And as you begin to appreciate what I'm about to show you, and we've gone into the bit of the data as far as the World Cup is concerned, to show you a trend of consistent poor performance by African teams at the World Cup. What really is the problem? I mean, Morocco has gone through, we applaud them, but three African countries have done it before them, and they don't go beyond the quarterfinals. And the history and the data is anything to go by. It predicts that Morocco will be knocked out in the quarterfinals after they've succeeded in the round of 16. So what really is the problem? And the Black Stars, yes, I know you want to talk about the Black Stars. I mean, it happened on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Many of us have moved on, and so I really don't want to give too much attention to the Black Stars, but I will. And then I'll look at the bigger picture, because we are part of this continent, and when we go, we all cheer the rest of Africa when we play, and we consistently, as a group, as a continent, underperform. It is no fluke. We need to look at that. And so we'll do that. So let's start with the Black Stars, shall we? But of course, that's where this is our home. So let's start here, and then we'll open up to the continent. You know, we know that we've exited group stage. We finished last bottom of our group, which again is no surprise to many people. And we did a bit of the line graph to show you what's been happening since we went to the World Cup in 2006. And if you look at what the line is telling us, what the graphic is telling us, we peaked in 2010, and we've been on a downward trajectory ever since. If anything at all, we've just plateaued from 2014, the last time we went, to now. So we're doing poorly, really, because we were here in 2006 when we, went to the round of 16. First time we went, right? And then the next time we went in 2010, the best performance yet, we went to the quarterfinals. And you will think that at least if you cannot beat this, don't drag it down. And so at least maintain this status quo, which was really a good one. And then the next time we went, shambolic, group stage, bottom of the pile, and we're out. Come back to 2022, again, we've shambolic again, we're out. And so this line doesn't tell a good story, right? And on the average, 2012 World Cup was the poorest in terms of performance that we've seen, by the way. We'll come to why we say that in terms of the real numbers for you to appreciate. And then you look at the performance of the 2022 World Cup. This is the pure data. We played 3 games. Our win percentage is 33.33%. Our loss percentage is 66%. You don't need a scientist to tell you that's really, really poor. We scored 5 goals and we conceded 7. And you begin to see why, in terms of goals conceded, this is our worst World Cup. That tells you something. We scored a lot of goals, and this 2022 World Cup is tied with what we also witnessed before this, and this is what I'm indicating here. So 2006, we played 4 matches, we scored 4 goals. Now, if you look at 2010, we played 5 matches and scored 5 goals. So if you look at it, 2022 is the year we've scored the most goals. We played the least amount of games with the most goals, right? Which is what you see here in blue. So as far as goals are concerned, this is our best World Cup. That is the only positive out of this. But the reverse is also true. As far as conceded is concerned, this is our worst World Cup. We've conceded 7. Never before have we done that in the 4 times we've been to the World Cup. In 2006, 4 games, concede 6. We score 4. So we are not high scorers of the World Cup traditionally. 2010, our best. 5 matches played, 5 goals, 1 goal per game, right? And yet we went farthest, and then we concede 4. So 2010, if you look at it, goals scored, goals conceded, best. And then you come to 2014, play 2, play 3, score 4, concede 6. And then you come to this year where we scored a lot, played less games, 3 games, but conceded a lot. So that tells you something about the quality of the defense we had going into this. And I had a lot of the experts on the show when I did a show before we went to the World Cup say they really loved our defense. In fact, they criticized our attack and said the attack, it's poor. This is the poorest attack we've had going into the World Cup. The defense going into the World Cup from the pundits, they claimed our defense was better this time than before with a poor attack. But the data shows us that our defense leaked a lot more, and up front we scored a bit more playing 3 games. So that should tell us a story. This is what you do post-match, post-tournament, to look at where you should improve going forward. We're trying to do that for you with this. And then you come to some of the things we need to be looking at. Now that we are out, we spent money for the 3 games. If you look at the budget that was presented to the Parliament, we spent $8.1 million for the 3 games. Yes, $8.1 million for the 3 games. If you add the friendly matches that we played, where we spent $1.5 million, then we've spent a total of $9.6 million to prepare and to play 3 games in the World Cup. Okay, this is just pure data and facts, right? And we're doing this so you can just begin to analyze yourself cost benefit of going to the World Cup at the time of an economic crisis. Now, if you look at income, I use income advisedly because FIFA is going to give us something back. Okay, so if we qualified, so we're entitled to $1.5 million. In the group stage, we get $9 million. So in total, we are expecting from FIFA $10.5 million. If you did the calculation, we have a net income, call it profit, whatever, a net profit of just $800,000, which isn't bad, which isn't bad, right? I mean, so that's it here. So we net profit. So if you net it off, we are not in a negative at all. So yeah, it's not bad. We have something small to show for it. I mean, that could go into doing other things. So which isn't bad at all for the purposes of participating in the World Cup. But then again, if you look at both sides of the equation, money well spent. I'll ask my pandas when they join me. Money well spent, considering that FIFA is going to give us some money, and if you net it off, we have a net income there. And then we come to the man OTTO, and I have to say a lot about this, and my panelists will tell me what they make of him. Going into the World Cup, I did a show here today, and all of them agreed he is the man to lead. But the dust and the rubble he's left in his wake with his pronouncements after he's left, right after we lost, have left me doubting if we made a good decision in appointing him. Of course, we are all wiser after the fact, but yes, that's why we take decisions and we use when we know better to make decisions going forward. So what are we learning from this? OTTO came in, played 12 matches. His win percentage is 33.33%. Won 4 matches. He drew 3 of them. So draw percentage is he's drawn 22% of the time that he's played. And he's lost 44%. 5 matches he's lost. I mean, so this isn't a great record by any standard, where your win percentage is only 33%. And your win win percentage is only 33%, and your defeats you've suffered is up to 44% with 22% draw. So if you put this and this together, that is significant. Out of the 12 matches played, he's only won 4. So clearly, losing him or him resigning shouldn't be something we should cry about, because the evidence says he's been poor. He's been poor. This is even less than average. Less than average. So that is the data. So don't cry about him. But the thing that I would cry about, if you have this poor record coaching the Black Stars with the sort of players you have, all these things players converting to the national team, and you come and produce this for us. And then you leave and begin to say stuff like this. Resign straight after. When you are the only part-time coach in the World Cup, and tell us stuff like this. The decision, in essence, that everybody knew I was going to leave, and then this is the part. They released me for 6 months. I wonder, my partners would tell me, did we know this before? Because when I had that show here, I didn't get an impression. I thought he had left. Maybe I misread it, but he was telling us that, after all, he just had leave of absence. Was it leave without pay? Whatever it is. 6 months. He was given 6 months to go and coach and come back. Really? How do you have a part-time coach who is away from his permanent job, 6 months, whose mind is on Germany? Well, don't take my word for it. Listen to what he says. At the moment, me and my family see our future in Germany. And I like my role at Dortmund, and we are very happy there. The reverse is true. He doesn't like his role with the Black Stars. That's a fact. I like my role at Dortmund. So he doesn't like his role at the Black Stars. And he says, and we are very happy there. He's not happy in Ghana. So at the moment, me and my family, we see our future in Germany. He doesn't see his future here. Shortly after he led us to a shambolic performance and an exit, he's telling you all along his future is there, not here. And then he goes on. From the day I started, I said, if I qualified, I'll resign after the World Cup. Even if we are champions, really. I don't believe this. Okay, we'll come to the thing. And then you have Chris Hughton as his assistant. But if you look at the data here, the data that we pulled up from all the sources we can find tells you that if you're really scrutinizing this closely, maybe we made a mistake not giving it to Chris and giving it to the part-time coach. Forget about the opinions. Just look at the data, right? Years of experience. This is nothing. 10 years, right? Games played, 12. 499. He was an assistant for a national team as well, by the way. Wins, 4. Wins, 195. Okay. Lost, 5. 19, Draws, 3. 165. But this is the thing that for me is interesting. If you net it off, win percentage, they are not too far apart, right? So maybe he's also an average coach. But the experience is heavily in his favor. Heavily in his favor. And we made a decision to go with OTTO, the part-time coach, who says his future is in Germany. And that's where he likes that role. He doesn't like... So why did he accept the job? Why did he accept the job when he liked that role better than what he had? And he's happy in Germany, not in Ghana. And his wife and his family, they see their future then. Why did he accept that role in the first place? Those questions we need to ask. And I think the GFA need to admit that they got this one wrong. This, when they were appointed, they said, no Matra Imakwe. But honestly, on the evidence, this is Matra Imakwe. The man himself was doing Matra Imakwe. He was trying it to Kwe for 6 months. If he succeeds, maybe he will stay. If he's that, he will go back. That is the evidence. That is the evidence. He was doing Matra Imakwe. When the GFA boss is saying, this appointment, we don't want to do Matra Imakwe. Okay. And then what else did we find in terms of data? Let's look at the big picture, the Africa story. Because let's forget about the Black Stars for a minute. Because the Black Stars story is not an isolated one. The rest of the continent go to the World Cup to just add up to the numbers. Don't take my word. Data. Look at it. So African teams have been to the World Cup a few times, right? And their performances we've tried to find. Cameroon, Tunisia, Senegal, Morocco, Ghana. They are the ones who went to the 2022 World Cup. So this 2022, I'll come back to the history of the World Cup pretty shortly. Group stage, how many of them? All of them with the exception of Morocco, knocked out. Knocked out. Win percentage, African teams, pay attention, 33. Morocco, of course, Morocco is doing well. Senegal, yeah, 50%. So the best performing African team is Morocco, and it's doing well. We need to applaud them. So they almost appear to be in the 2022 World Cup. They are an outlier, so you take them out of the equation. The vast majority of the four, 33, 50. The best is an average one, right? Which is Senegal, Ghana. This tells you a story. The trend here, it is no fluke that we are shambolic as an African team. Points 4-4-3, Ghana. And you see, out of the African teams that went to the World Cup, we were the crappiest in terms of points on the board, right? And then we have goal difference minus 2. Again, tells a story. Again, if you come to the World Cup, now let's look at the bigger picture. Let's look at the African teams, African nations at the World Cup in its history. Nations in Africa, 54 of them, only 13 have been to the World Cup. Only 13. Now, out of that 13, 41 have never participated. So a lot of them are still trying to qualify for the next World Cup. But this is the story of our performance at the World Cup as a continent, and it is dipping. Group stages, that's all we go to do. We go there, drum and dance in the group stages, and then we are out. Round of 16, only 8 have been there. Only 4 quarterfinals. In addition, if we add Morocco today, 4. Before Morocco, only 3. Beyond this, 0 and 0. So history, this graph here we've drawn, tells us that Morocco won't make it. But I hope that for once we'll break this chain so Morocco goes, right? But if you ask the North Africans, sometimes they don't even see themselves as Africa. But that's a whole different conversation for another time. This is the data of our performance at the World Cup as Africa. It is terrible. Why? I don't know. My pundits will tell me. Why is this the case? In the history, in the long history of the World Cup, why? And another thing that beats me, the European teams, they have black players leading the attack. Didier Drogba, Abedi Pele, all those fantastic players, right? And yet we go to the World Cup and we can't perform. What is it about it? It's just kicking the ball. It's just round ball, chasing around it and kicking it. Why can't we do it? Even here. Okay. And then you look at the probability of we do the probability question, which is a very important one. Probability of being at the World Cup and exiting, if you look at from 1930 to now, since we first went. At the group stages, that's where we have the most probability in terms of our performance and participation, 77%. What is the probability that we would go to the round of 16? Only 16.67% probability that African teams will go to round of 16. That is shambolic. To quarterfinals, only 6% probability that will go to quarterfinals. As for semifinals, and it's zero probability that will go there. So Morocco is up against it, right? Again. And if you look at African nations at the World Cup, we look at the story of the individual numbers, which is just reflecting what the probability conversations we've had. It is, as you've had it, 4 only in quarterfinals, including Morocco, 0 going forward. So my guests are joining me. Sani Dara knows football better than I have, better than I do. And my colleague, George ADDO Jr. will also join me. Songo, Fire for Fire, is here on the show tonight. I want him to help me here. From the Black Stars first, we'll do the first 15 minutes or so on the Black Stars. And then next round of it, we'll talk about how the Black Stars is just, an isolated element in the bigger picture of African poor performance at the World Cup. Stay with me, don't go anywhere. Let's look at the numbers. Let's use the data to analyze what happened at the World Cup. I know the emotions are also very high, but let's stay with the facts for a second when we return.